let's see, we get consumer prices skyrocketing, but that's not because of Biden. But the consumer prices in October 2021 were 6.2% higher than a year ago, and this is the highest year-over-year price that inflation has skyrocketed since 1990. It raises three main questions: what is the cause of this? What should be done about this? And in particular, how should it affect the design of the Build Back Better plan that Biden wants to institute, wants to put in? Now, there are several factors at play here. Um, None, however, should deflect from the importance of the longer term of the Build Back Better agenda. The Wall Street Journal's editorial page, which leads the media campaign against tax increases on the rich and corporations, is calling on Congress to kill the fucking bill in the supposed interest of fighting inflation. The the closet Republican Joe Manchin, working tirelessly in favor of the rich and the corporate lobbyists, is also pointing to inflation as a reason to delay, cut, or oppose the legislation. Such opposition to the BBB, which is the Build Back Better plan, completely mixes up the short term and the long term and utterly confuses deficit spending to fight COVID 19 with fully paid for spending to fund the long term reforms. The Build Back Better plan is not about the next month or the next year. It is about the next generation that we're going to see. We need to set a long term direction for the country toward a fairer and more productive society by enabling the working poor in America to get health care, family leave, affordable drug prices, child care, and affordable community college. Unlike the temporary COVID 19 spending, the long term Build Back Better plan outlays should be fully paid for by higher taxes on the rich and the corporations which have enjoyed a massive windfall in the past 2 years. If the Build Back Better plan is paid for with taxes, then it won't be added to the public debt or create long-term inflationary pressures. Inflation results when the overall demand for goods and services exceeds the available supply at today's prices. Therefore, inflation can result from a rise in demand, a fall in supply, or some combination of the two. Analyzing the current inflation requires that we parse the demand side and supply side factors at play, and this is not fucking simple. The COVID 19 pandemic has whipsawed the economy both in the US and globally more than any other shock since World War II. The swings in demand and supply because of lockdowns and government policies, they are bigger than the 1970s oil shocks and the 2008 financial crisis. But we are in somewhat of an uncharted territory here. Still we can identify some of the key factors driving that supply and demand. The story starts off, of course, with COVID 19. In March of 2020, the US and the world economy had partially shut down to slow the spread of the virus. The shutdown mainly affected travel, tourism, hotels, entertainment, restaurants, and schools. Most of the agriculture, mining, and manufacturing, the goods producing sectors, continued operation, as did most office bound activities that could be shifted online. With tens of millions of service sector jobs quickly ending, the government resorted to a massive transfer of income. Payments to households and businesses funded by deficits, especially to keep household disposable income from plummeting. Money that was spent by the money that was sent by the government to most Americans prevented the disastrous loss of income of tens of thousands of tens of millions of households, which could have led to a massive collapse of consumer spending. In fact, households saved most of the government payments as they were unable to spend the money on activities outside of home. These payments were provided by Congress in three distinct packages: two under the squatter Trump, in March of 2020, the CARES Act, in December of 2020, the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, and one that was under Biden in March of 2021, the American Rescue Plan. The federal government ran unprecedented peacetime deficits around 15% of the GDP growth in 2020 and 10.3% of the GDP growth in 2021 to pay for the increased outlays. In the meantime, the Federal Reserve brought up a remarkable amount of public debt, thereby expanding the monetary base by around $2.4 trillion between March of 2020 and August of 2021, and thereby preventing a liquidity crisis. And that is a sudden dying of I'm sorry, not dying. That is a sudden drying up of lending and borrowing, as occurred, for example, from the 2008 financial crisis. Much of the cheap money had found its way into stock prices, which have soared, but that in turn has boosted the wealth of the super rich. There, um, there were extraordinary measures, certainly the largest fiscal and monetary expansion in peacetime history. It was indeed very hard to calibrate the proper magnitude of the response given that the uncertainties over the size and timing of the COVID-19 disruption. And in retrospect, the demand measures were a bit too large, but we should still credit these strong steps with preventing as much deeper and prolonged economic downturn. The economy might have fallen into a deep contraction or even a depression, but for these proactive policies. At the same time, the supply side, excuse me, at the same time the supply side has been negatively impacted, especially in three different areas that account for a considerable amount of the recent price increases. First, when petroleum-based transportation had plummeted in 2020, oil prices collapsed, even reaching a negative price in Texas one day back in 2020. Saudi Arabia had responded by cutting daily oil production by around 1 million barrels, from roughly 10 million to 9 million million barrels per day. But yet, when demand picked up this year, Saudi production was brought back online gradually, causing the world oil prices to soar in the short term. Second, a surge in demand for electronic components, notably microchips, has led to a shortage of parts for new car production, and a sharp fall in monthly automobile production in the U.S., which fell from 197,000 cars in September 2020 to just 84,000 cars this September. This supply shortfall has caused the prices of new and used cars to soar. And third, after a sharp fall in consumer demand for and the production of meat products early on in the pandemic, and demand for the meat is now soaring, while production and shipments are still lagging behind, causing the sticker shock on consumer meat prices. In summary, both demand side and supply side factors are at play. Overall, demand is high, and it's pumped up by enormous budget deficits and easy money, while the supply shortages are hitting energy, food products, and automobiles. But energy prices are up 30% in October, going back from October 2020. Meat prices are up by 14.5%. New car and truck prices are up 10%, and used car and truck prices are up 26%, and services other than energy are up only 3%. So the question is, what do we do? First, the economy does not need any more fiscal or monetary stimulus. The budget deficit is expected to drop from 10.3% of the GDP this year to around 4.6% of the GDP growth in 2022, according to the CBO estimates, and this is a good thing. The Fed likewise should tighten monetary policy step by step, with interest rates rising from today's rock bottom levels, which is 0.05% on a 3-month Treasury bill, to more historically normal levels in the next 3 years. OPEC should increase production to reduce sky-high prices in the short run, and also plan for a downward trajectory of production over the coming years as electric vehicles replace cars with internal combustion engines, thereby driving down the global demand for oil. In summary, inflation in the upcoming months should be controlled by ending the stimulus spending, tightening monetary policy, slashing the budget deficit, and increasing OPEC monthly oil production to counter the recent surge in global oil and gas prices. At the same time, we should persevere in making long-term federal investments in health, education, and childcare for the working poor, paying for those policies with higher taxes on the super rich and corporations. But if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And thanks for listening.